Morning, everyone. Hope you are well. This today's learning is dedicated in memory of Ami Basario Sholem and Shlomo Paul Casimir. Yom Yochid ben Moshe Eliezer, Shlomo Yochid ben Moshe Eliezer, ben Sion ben Yitzchak, Arab ben Shimon Bas Faiva, Rav Mordechai ben Moshe Katna, Moshe ben Tzvi Zalman, Rav Bas Avram Pinkus. Good morning, Clarice. Lovely to see you on this bright winter's day. Good morning, David and Peter. So we know that at the beginning of the parasha, we've already discussed the fact that it discusses about the passing of Sarah. In fact, we learn about the burial of Sarah and some of the rituals and traditions that we have, we're able to glean from this week's parasha. So Rav Yitzchak Cairo, in his work told us Yitzchak, he says that the account of Sarah's death and burial is placed and juxtaposed between two things. So we have Sarah's death, which is juxtaposed between the birth of Rivka on the one hand and the marriage of Isaac on the other. Why do we find that the death of Sarah is juxtaposed between the birth and the marriage? And the answer is because that is the way that we are able to have the correct perspective. In other words, remembering the day of death gives meaning to life. And if you think about it, whenever we have any type of simcha, we break a glass, we have a time for reflection, we temper our enthusiasm and our excitement. Our feeling of being on cloud nine is tempered because of we recognize the fragility of life. We should keep things in perspective. And therefore the Medrash says that when God said that all that he had created was very good, the Medrash says good means life, very good means death. And therefore God was saying that death in itself is something which is good, something which is valuable, something that gives meaning to life. Our own mortality gives meaning. If it was open-ended, then we wouldn't value the preciousness of life, the sanctity of life. But because we know that we are here for such a limited time, therefore we have to grab life by the scruff of the neck and make the most of every moment. And it's interesting that Rav Lev points out that there are three ways in which the excessive concern for with death can actually have negative results. Number one, he says, that if a person is suddenly confronted with their own mortality, it can lead to denial. A person wants to run away from the reality that is staring him in the face. Secondly, he says that the awareness of a person's own mortality can lead to despair, right? Or feelings that nothing in this world has meaning. We're all going to die. The end is near, right? It can lead to capitulation, right? And finally, he says that thoughts of mortality can lead to feelings of total abandonment, and therefore it can lead to frenzied indulgence in the pleasures and luxuries of this world. Eat, drink, and be merry, right? So therefore, that is the flip side, the danger of a complete obsession or the wrong perspective when it comes to death. But if we think about it, it is only death that actually shapes the contours of life and gives it depth, meaning, and significance. Rav Bernstein once quipped, the late great Rav Bernstein said that I'm going to speak about, he was at a Chevra Kadisha dinner, and he said, I'm going to speak about life because without it, death has no future. And conversely, if we don't speak and think about death, then life has no meaning. So I think it's a very, very important idea for us to reflect upon, and getting that balance right between living a life where we have the correct perspective, we're able to see the wood from the trees and understand that, we're not here forever, and therefore this world is a stepping stone to the next world, and therefore valuing and cherishing every second of life and making the most of those opportunities is what life's all about. But on the other hand, not having an unhealthy obsession with death or seeing life as being meaningless, because tomorrow we're all going to die. So that is the lesson, one of the lessons that we learn from from the beautiful parsha of Chayei Sarah. There was an analogy that was given about a person who went to the doctor, and he believed he was dead, and the doctor pricked his finger and he started to bleed. So he said, "I've proven to you," said the doctor, "that you're alive." And the man said, "No, you haven't proven to me that I'm alive at all. You just proven to me that dead men are able to bleed." So sometimes we have created around ourselves a bubble of perspective on life, which can inhibit us and prevent us from really breaking out of the shackles of habit and ritual and living the real creative, meaningful existence that we are all capable of. Yesterday I was standing in front of the grave of Rabbi Lord Sachs, Zichrono Livracha, on his yahrzeit. And I remember as I was standing there, I was reflecting. I remember him mentioning it was one of the last times that he actually addressed the rabbis. And I have to tell you that there is still a mourning and a tremendous void in people's lives across the world. Some of the greatest political leaders, some of the great heads of industry, rabbinic leaders, non-Jewish leaders, everyone feels a tremendous void in their lives. And one of the things he mentioned was one of the moments that really was a crystallizing moment. There were several, but he mentioned he went on honeymoon with Lady Elaine Sachs, and he waded out into the water, but he couldn't swim. And all of a sudden, this big wave came and pulled him out, and he was drowning. And just when he thought he was going to drown, this massive Italian man managed to pull him and lift him up, and he carried a bedraggled Rabbi Sachs, Jonathan Sachs in those days, and literally dropped him in front of Elaine. And he said that feeling of recognizing that the fragility of life, that he could have died, it really was a wake-up call. And it wasn't the only time. That kol denamar daka, that thin, quiet, but potent voice that we speak about with the shofar, was a voice that resonated inside Rabbi Sachs throughout his adult life. He stared death in the face several times. He had cancer when he was in his 30s, early 30s. I think he had it when he was 50, and then, of course, latterly in his 70s. And I think there was an urgency. He was somebody who very much took on board this idea of chayei Sarah, that life is so precious, friends. We're always being encouraged by the media to look ahead. If we just have this, if we just go there, then it will be great. Every second of life is precious. I've said time and again that when it came to the binding of Isaac, the ram, we said, did not happen to appear. But we know from our statements of our sages, it was positioned there from time immemorial. No person finds themselves in a situation. You are positioned there. You're beshet, you're predestined to be there. If you find yourself in a situation, you're meant to be there, and therefore you're meant to use it to the best of your abilities. Make the most of every situation you find yourself in. You'll look back and laugh. Sometimes the situations can be excruciatingly painful and difficult and challenging, but afterwards you'll look back when you've climbed that mountain and you've overcome it and you've come down the other side, and you'll say, look what we managed to achieve. Please God, we shall all achieve great things, be inspired by the extraordinary life and contribution of the late and great Rabbi Lord Sachs. May his memory be one of blessing. Amen. We continue with Psalm 23, a song of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even as I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You set a table before me in the presence of my adversaries. You anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life. Now I will dwell in the house of the Lord for the length of days. Memorial prayer, friends. Adon Elamim Zachoes Nishmois Amibas Aryeh Shobit Shlomo Polkazme Yirmiyahu Moshe Liza Shlomo Yechiv Moshe Liza V'Tzion Nizchok Ari Ben Shimon Levas Vayvo Aram Modatai Moshe Katna Menashe Ben Sizalman Rali Basa from Pinkus Shalchu Li'Olamam Anabalarachamim Nazirim Zayta Kanafech Li'Olamim V'Tisos Zachayis Shmasam V'Yanu Chamish Shmasam B'Shalom and Amar Amen. Long life wishes to all. Lastly, before Shalema prayer for all those that are unwell, and we still have many in our community that need a refuah shlema for COVID and for non-COVID reasons, and we wish each and every one of them, they know who they are, some of them are watching, we wish you all a refuah shlema, a speedy and a full recovery. Mi shebeirach Avosenu Avram Yisrael Yaakov Moshe Aaron David Shlomo Yivarach Rapes Acholim Bavu Shanu Mispalim Bavu Ram Bizchaz HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachim Aleihem Lachem Alefosam Vishlach Lem Fushlim Mishmaim Lachalovim Besoshach Yisrael Lastly, just a reminder that we have our Friday night dinner. We have almost sold out. There's around 15 tickets left. If you would like to come and join us, and that's a very special entertainer and surprise guest coming, not to be missed. I think this Friday is the last day to sign up. Anyways, whatever you're doing, we wish you well. Keep safe, keep well, keep being inspired, and keep living life to the max. Take care. All the best.